Hi, everybody. I trust you're well. This month's book review is Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. I hope I pronounced that right. And in his words, is essentially a brief history of tomorrow. Now, I haven't read Homo Sapiens, but I know a lot of people rave about that. This is a very brief summary of what I could make out of Homo Deus, which is quite a detailed book. It's about 450, 500 pages, and there's a lot of information in there, so it's quite hard to summarize. But briefly, as he says, a brief history of tomorrow. It's basically what he sees the future of the human race. Now, this is of interest to a lot of us at the moment because we've got AI, we've got longevity with ages, political change. There's lots of interesting stuff in here. So his summary is essentially mankind, or Homo sapiens, have now mastered most of the challenges we've always had, which have normally been war, famine, and plague. For most of our existence, those have been the three things that have given us meaning. Surviving war, surviving famine, surviving plague. War seems to have dissipated now. There still are wars, but it's far more peaceful than it's ever been. Famine has been sorted out in the majority of the world and looks like it's going to be solved long term. And the plague with antibiotics, stuff like that, has been sorted out as well. So it means, what do we do next? Where do we get meaning if it's not about survival anymore? And he looks to meaning coming now from essentially humans, rather than looking to God, they're now looking to themselves. They're looking to make themselves happy, and they're looking for progress. That's what gives them meaning, which gives birth to humanism, which essentially is, if it feels right and it feels good, then it is good, and that's the whole purpose of my life, to enjoy myself. Now, he uses a lot of data and convincing information to basically say that religion's now not needed anymore, and that this is where humanity naturally goes. So we've got, great, the end of the world, we just make ourselves happy. But then he brings in that third element, which is that he casts doubt on this whole humanistic thing. Because if humanism bases itself on, if I have a feeling, if I trust my authentic self, then I follow my gut or my authentic self, and that is what my life is about. It's about self-actualization, essentially. The trouble with that is a lot of new scientific studies are now saying that we're not one feeling. There's a whole host of feelings going on, and actually you can manipulate people or things to feel whatever you want them to. And that's where AI comes in. So what they're saying is that using data from Facebook, Google searches, stuff like that, they can predict what people will do based on what their likes are, based on what they search for, based on a history of their genetic predisposition, their families, all that data. You can then you can work out what someone will do with just an algorithm. Now, if you do that, then suddenly it's not free will at all. It's all based on what the algorithm is, and this brings forth what he calls the Homo sapiens losing control, is where AI comes in. AI is much better at working out algorithms than we ever will be. And sooner or later, he says Facebook will know you better than your best friend. Facebook will be able to predict what you like much better. And if you want to know what your ideal partner is, speak to AI and it will say, well, based on your likes, every decision you've made in your life and your parents' likes and your DNA, then we think this partner is best for you. And that takes into so many things. It talks about the sophistication of AI now, that they can actually, EMI, which is emotional intelligence, I don't know what the M's for, but where you can actually write classical music to actually touch the soul. Now, it isn't touching the soul, but it's showing how an algorithm can be manipulated in order to make us feel certain things. And that's really where this book goes at the end of it, which is highly, highly depressing. He predicts that Homo sapiens will essentially be extinct within 200 to 300 years, purely because AI is just more efficient. And he's like, in the old days, in the Industrial Revolution, dictators would make sure that people stayed alive because they needed people to create product. With AI, people are essentially quite expensive, inefficient. There will be less need for humans to survive. Therefore, if you're in control, it's in your interest to kind of let people die. He also talks about upgrading health. With biotechnologies, you can have better sight, better intelligence by manipulating DNA. He always talked about health previously being about keeping people alive, whereas now it's about helping people strive. So he talks about a number of things that are possible: a human super race, possible complete extinction. But it's fascinating, and it was interesting. It was very interesting, especially with the growth of AI and just how efficient that will become. We don't know how quickly it'll progress. He talks about in 2004, they said self-driving cars would never happen. 10 years later, it looks like they're highly likely now. But a fascinating look into the possible next 20 to 40 years and what it means for jobs, for relationships and stuff like that. So I thought it starts really well. The middle's a bit kind of long for me, but it ends superbly, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I recommend Homo Deus to anybody who's interested in the future and thinking bigger picture. He doesn't go into the environment. I think he's supposing that, you know, humans are incredibly environmentally expensive. So presumably as AI gets better, humans will be, that may sort that thing out. But he does say there is a cost to human progress, and it tends to be the planet. So it can't go on forever. So yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with everything he says, but I can see how there's a trend towards what he's talking about, and it's well worth reading. I gave it 5 stars, so be interested in your thoughts.